Hi, I'm Tim, and this is Selfless Awakening, where I like to ground all of this mindfulness, self-help, spirituality stuff. And I'm very excited today to have a special guest.
Hi.
This is my partner, my girlfriend, Jessie. She is at rebelhippiesoul.com. That's her Instagram. You can find her on YouTube, Instagram, and also her website is rebelhippiesoul.com. It's Rebel Hippie Soul is everything else. Wonderful blog, wonderful website. She has so many articles up right now that deal with everything from A Course in Miracles to mindfulness practices to relationships, finding someone from a spiritual, using spiritual tools to manifest relationships, all sorts of things. And so definitely check her out, rebelhippiesoul.com. And so today I'm very excited because I thought that since we're time together today to talk with you all, that today would be a good time to talk about spiritual relationships. I'm in a series right now of videos. I'm doing a 30 Days of Awakening series where every day I wake up and I ask intuitive guidance, what would you have me speak about? And then after meditating, I come and I turn on the live Instagram. So you'll see, if you see us looking over here, back and forth, it's because we have a live Instagram going over here in the corner. And then also we have this video that we're putting up on YouTube, okay? So if you're joining in and you have any questions, feel free to leave them. But here we go. So this is day 19 of 30 Days of Awakening, and I thought it would be a nice time to talk about what is a spiritual relationship. What does that mean? We met under the agreement with each other that this is not an egoic relationship. This is not and sometimes in the spiritual community you might say a twin flame relationship.
Well, mostly it would be considered not a karmic relationship.
Yes.
So karmic, egoic are sort of interchangeable.
Yes, we set out on a quest to not have a karmic relationship and have a relationship where we're connecting on the deeper level, on the deepest understanding of ourselves, and then coming together in that way. So, so if you have anything you'd like to say, or any those of you joining in, hello, welcome. We're talking about spiritual relationships. So, let's talk about that a little bit. All right. So, maybe Jessie, if you could explain a little bit about since you read and you've been a student of Course in Miracles. I think that might be a nice place for us to start to talk about A Course in Miracles, which, if you haven't read A Course in Miracles, it's an incredibly insightful text, and it's, without going too much into it, it's a very spiritually charged text with incredible lessons. Lessons for us all to learn in life, to feel better, to make better life choices, to unravel ourselves from our thinking. Marianne Williamson, who's running for president, who you may have seen in the debates, she's a big teacher of A Course in Miracles, and I respect it, and I haven't studied it as much as Jessie has, and so this might be a nice time to talk a little bit about A Course in Miracles and how A Course in Miracles talks about spiritual relationships, because we use some of that.
Well, A Course in Miracles uses the term holy relationship, which distinguishes from, again, an egoic relationship. And an egoic relationship is one in which two people join for sort of worldly intentions, such as like, we're going to get a house together, we're going to have children together, he likes football, I like football, he wants to live in New Jersey, I want to live in New Jersey.
Right.
It's these really sort of surface level connectors that bring people together, and then we hold scripts in egoic relationships, meaning I'm with you as long as you're employed, you're in shape, you're happy, but the minute you become unemployed, depressed, you start gaining weight, like, I'm out of the relationship. So it's these sort of like if-then situations, And so what A Course in Miracles describes as a holy relationship is one in which you're connecting with the other person solely for the purpose of learning unconditional love, which means you are connecting on a spiritual level. You're turning the relationship over to the Holy Spirit.
Right.
And you are, when you get into these feuds of like, you didn't do the dishes, you didn't, you said you were going to pick me up at 8, you came at 8:30. That's not a holy relationship. You surrender the relationship, and then there are a series of different prayers, different activities, different exercises to bring it back to a spiritual connection.
Right.
And really the goal is that, A Course in Miracles says if you can have a holy relationship with one person, then that will teach you what love is. So, don't go out and try to be, you can, but, you don't need to go out and try to have a holy relationship with everyone you encounter, although every encounter is a holy relationship, paradoxically. Right. However, if you can practice, you kind of think of it as like your partner to practice spirituality with. So when your egoic stuff comes up, instead of responding from ego, you turn to your spiritual practice.
Right. And you mentioned something in there about, you talked about scripts, and how in an egoic relationship, or some people might use the word karmic relationship, like a relationship based on worldly things, a relationship not based on the deeper connection to self. Inside of a karmic relationship, we do a lot of scripting of the other person, and it can basically, scripting is where you have laid out a very specific expectation for your partner or for the person in the relationship. Like, for instance, let's say, like, I want a woman who let's say I want a woman who goes to comedy, plays softball, likes softball, and who is a semi-professional tango dancer, right? Like
and looks this certain way,
and looks, yes,
all the time,
yes, and always looks this particular way, right? I've created a script that, like, literally, like, I've written a script, like, to a show, and I've said, here, you've got to play this role, and if you don't play this role exactly the way I've scripted you to, I'm not going to
love you.
I'm not going to love you. Yeah, basically that's, and it's so easy with the way that our dating community, with the way that our culture is set up now, to script each other, because think about how the apps work, like the online dating apps. They ask you in your profile, you like, it becomes a thing of putting how tall you are if you're a guy, and with girls they have a whole slew of things that they'll put, that little comments of, I'm this, I'm that, I've got all of these things I want from my man or I want from my woman, and it's like we have this laundry list of expectations or scripts, possible script points. And a big part of the spiritual relationship, having a spiritual relationship, is meeting someone and you're connecting on a deeper level. You're connecting and saying, hey, there is a part of me that wants to script you. There's a part of me that wants to say all of the things I expect you to be like, and being a spiritual relationship, at least I think for us, is like, it doesn't mean that doesn't happen. Like, that still comes up. I catch myself scripting her, and I notice that a spiritual relationship doesn't mean that doesn't happen. I think it certainly lessens more and more that you practice a spiritual relationship. But a spiritual relationship is about learning how to detach from the drama style relationship, like the back and forth, all of the stereotypical dramatic things we see in relationships. That, a spiritual relationship, you're learning how to attach to and identify with the deeper part of yourself, the part of yourself that's constant, the part of yourself that's non-physical, the part of yourself that can witness the voice in the head and witness its games and witness its scripting. And you have someone else who's dedicated to that deeper connection to self, so that you're literally, it's me, the non-physical self, connecting with you, the non-physical self. You have your avatar, Jesse. I have my avatar, Tim. and look at Tim and Jesse having their little dance sometimes, but we both know the truth that we're not this egoic interaction, and it's about connecting with someone and evolving and deepening into that deep understanding of self.
Mm-hmm.
So
the way that I think about it is there's the ego, the personality me, Jessie, and she has, I speak of her in third person, she has a lot of fear come up. So maybe she gets mad when Tim does something annoying. And
I don't do annoying things.
And this spiritual practice, as far as a spiritual partnership goes, is it's my responsibility to get centered, to shift to a loving state of being before coming to my partner. And it doesn't mean that we're not going to talk about something. It doesn't mean that I might say, you know what, Tim, like, I've been feeling like we need to spend more time together. Or when you did this, I kind of felt that way. Like, we're still talking about it, but I'm not approaching it from that egoic personality, meaning the thought in my head that keeps looping, like, Tim shouldn't have done that. Tim shouldn't have done that. Tim was such a jerk. Like, instead, it's my job to get centered. I turn to A Course in Miracles. I try to pray. I try to shift to a loving state and then talk about whatever's come up versus attacking the other person. I sort of, I think in a spiritual partnership, it's your responsibility to reach a peaceful state. And A Course in Miracles says, the famous line from ACIM is, if you were different, I'd be happy. And so the idea is that in an egoic relationship, you say, if my boyfriend would only do the dishes, I'd be happy. But in a spiritual partnership, you say, I'm going to be happy and love my boyfriend, whether he does the dishes or not. I have to find peace apart from what he does. I have to reach a loving state, even if my mind is looping that he shouldn't have done that. And most people, I think, fall in that category of the mind starts looping, like, I can't believe she did that. I can't believe she did that. And then it's like a fight. Yeah. Instead of like, let me get centered, let me detach, let me talk about this in a loving way. Right,
absolutely. Yeah, and I feel like that's the name of the game, is being able to step out of emotional reactions that you have to your partner. And the thing of it is that, I think about a big thing with it in our relationship is, it's not that things don't come up. I mean, we have things come up for sure. Yes, Carrie, absolutely. Unconditional love. That's right, yeah. It's like we have things come up for sure between us. And it's a matter of, seeing these things together as things that have surfaced to look at, to learn from, to love. And this process of allowing, as a couple, things to come up, it's an incredible whole other level of healing that can come into your life, because as we get on the spiritual path, we learn that so much of this path is about surrendering to what is and being able to step into an identification of your constant non-physical self, the presence that's always there, the presence that's there regardless if the voice in my head is going or not, that's there regardless of what my body's up to. There's constant presence here. And from here, you're able to allow things to surface in yourself, just inside of yourself. And when you have another person who's dedicated to that deeper identification of self in the non-physical, in the constant presence behind all of the chatter, and you both together are able to meet in this understanding of each other as non-physical beings, as not people, not a name. She's not Jessie. She's not this beautiful body. Although it's all lovely, that's not actually who this being is on the deepest level. And I am not this guy that you're looking at talking on my deepest level. I'm the awareness of this guy, right? And so when we sit back there and we not only allow things to surface inside of ourselves, but as a couple, you're able to, in a safe place, say, hey, this came up in me today. And then your partner says, hey, I understand. And you saying that came up in you brings all this up in me. And then you go, okay.
Right.
But notice you don't say, you did this or I did this. It's like if getting to that place of what's one thing we do is practice this idea of reporting on what's coming up inside of the true you, which is the non-physical field of awareness that's always there. So I'll say like, it came up in me this morning that when you said that last night, it hurt my feelings, or I felt a little, I'll say it came up in the field of awareness that's me. So there's a certain detachment from it, and that helps to make it easier so that we don't get pulled into unconsciousness, because it's so easy. Hello. It's so easy when you get into, in any conversation with anyone really, especially a romantic partner where something's bothering you, that it's like, if you say something that's bothering you, it triggers in the other person,
right.
like, whoa,
Yeah. It's almost comical how our minds tell us that we're going to find one person who's going to behave exactly how we want him or her to behave
right.
at every moment for years and
if
years
we don't,
and years.
Then we didn't meet our person.
And if we don't, then there's someone else out there, or our partner is an asshole. It's really comical that, I feel like in egoic relationships, we don't give our partners any leeway to be a little grumpy or be a little whatever.
Right.
It's like we just expect perfection and it's these scripts that are running us, and most of the scripts are from our own issues. So most of the time we're triggered. When I'm triggered, it's not that Tim did something. Most of the time it's just an issue that I had. Maybe it was an issue from the past, maybe it was my own fear, maybe I had a hard week and I'm kind of in a lower emotional state, and then I take something that Tim did and I kind of flip it in my mind. So it's like a lot of the time the issues that we're having with our partner is not even from a real place. It's from projections we have, fears we have. It's our own sort of unconscious bullshit, for lack of a better phrase, that we're putting onto our partner. And so when it bubbles up, when a disagreement happens, when something happens with your partner, most of the time it's not even your partner, it's just your own stuff coming up to be healed. And the relationship is the arena in which your fears can be transmuted. Right. So if I'm feeling moody, I'm feeling emotional, I'm kind of kicking up a fight with Tim, that's the arena where I can transmute that fear, transmute that moodiness. Right. And at the end of our conversation, at the end of looking at it, talking about it, I kind of feel like a weight has been lifted off my chest, but even more so than just between Tim and me, it's almost like something has been lifted from me. Right. So it serves not only the relationship, but I think it serves each individual
big time,
as far as cultivating and expanding your own consciousness.
Oh yeah.
You have a partner to work. You have a safe place.
Exactly.
To work things out.
And I think there's no place where, maybe family would be pretty close, but I think romantic relationship, if you have the gift of being able to combine your romantic relationship with a spiritual relationship, which it doesn't necessarily need to be. You can have spiritual relationship with a sibling that you guys are lighting each other up. You can have it with a friend who is a spiritual companion that you're able to practice these interacting with someone who also is in a place of detachment from their idea of self. You can have these practices, but if you can combine it with the romantic relationship aspect, I think the level of there's so many more patterns and beliefs that we hold on to when it comes to romantic relationships that we can release and heal, that you're at a whole nother level to the spiritual connection when you're able to combine those. And it's one of those things too where it's important to dovetail back on what you were saying, since these things come up and we look at them and we're there is a certain amount of ownership that we learn when we witness a problem. When I'm annoyed with you because of whatever, it's not you that needs to do any changing.
Right.
There's something in, I have
Yes.
resistance to you. It's
Right.
my resistance. And it's so easy in relationships to think,
It's you, the other person.
you are the one who's, no, but it's not me this time.
Right.
She did this.
Right.
And your mind will get really clever
Right.
with saying it. But the reality is, anytime you have any resistance inside of you at all,
Right.
that's your responsibility. You have something blocked in there. And
Right.
a lot of times, when something surfaces in you that bothers you about the other person, you have something to look at
Right.
about that. So if I'm frustrated with you, whatever, like I'm frustrated with...
What example are you going to pick?
I know, I don't want to say, it's like,
It's like,
why did you bring up that example?
Going
All right.
to the Rolodex.
Yeah, it's like, so let me make up an imaginary one. I'm frustrated with you being late to my volleyball game. Okay? Which I'm not playing. She never came to my volleyball game and she wasn't late. See? Okay, that's a good one. So let's say that, and then I go into the story of, oh, she's always late. Every time she doesn't care about me. She's not like, constantly she's late. She doesn't come to my things. Likely, I would have to look at in that situation, I'm probably late to stuff. I'm probably late to stuff that she wants me to come to, and I'm probably not super respectful to the events that I go to. Like, that's kind of how it works. It's like, I would be angry at her for the very thing that I'm doing to her
Right.
that I'm missing,
Right.
you know?
Often, and A Course in Miracles talks about how your partner is your perfect match insofar as they're your mirror, and whatever is triggering you, like they are the perfect person to trigger you to bring up the issue. So for example, if you are a control freak perfectionist, you're likely going to manifest a partner who's a complete opposite, who's messy, who doesn't like to pick up things, because that's your perfect partner to heal that controlling energy and to make peace with someone who's the opposite of that. So the person you manifest will be the exact person who's going to trigger you. If you have fear of abandonment, you might manifest a partner who travels a lot for work. And the reason is it has to trigger you, because the purpose of relationship is to evolve to the next level of consciousness.
And that means these things surfacing so they can be healed.
So if you manifested a partner who was clingy, that would not heal your fear of abandonment. That would keep the cycle going. You would just keep clinging to that person. You're going to manifest the person who's the exact
going to help you wake you up.
person. So stuff is going to come up. Like, and it's beautiful when it does, because it's coming up to heal it.
Right.
Most people think it's coming up, and they think it means that you're not a good match, or
Yeah, these things coming up, like it's inevitable things will come up in your relationship, because things come up in you. It's inevitable things will come up in you. It's inevitable things will come up in your partner. And it's inevitable that things will come up in both of you about the togetherness of both of you. So it doesn't mean that you're not connected. It just means you have things to heal.
Oh, there's a nice
we have a
comment.
comment here, yes.
Gemini
Thank you, I've been
Pulse.
frustrated. Yes, hi, Gemini Pulse. We'll read your comment here.
Kids.
Thank you. I've been frustrated with my kids this morning and needed to reset, and this has helped. Yes, kids, this is the same. With kids, same game. It's the same exact thing. A spiritual relationship, like we were talking about earlier, having scripts for your romantic partner. It's very easy to have scripts for your kids, and especially the scripts we have for our kids are expectations for them to usually
do things we've never done.
Yeah, right. And it's like, so it's so important to practice this idea of if you're frustrated and angry with your kid for not doing this or not doing that, you want to look at your frustration first and look at that. And one of the great things about these spiritual practices when it comes to relationships is you learn how to detach from the emotional reaction so that it doesn't speak in the moment, and so that you can speak from your higher self. And sometimes, you may not get to a place where you can be able to have an emotional reaction, be pissed off at somebody and feel that anger, and also hear the voice of it speaking, but not let it speak. Like, it takes a bit to get to that place of that level of detachment. But what you can do, like to the stages of it, you can get to a place where you're at least witness to the anger inside of you. And what you do is you just say, I'm not centered right now. I'm not ready to have this conversation with you because I'm afraid I might say some things that I know are not my highest self saying. Mm-hmm. It's the anger or the frustration speaking. And you can get to a place where you may not be able to speak the voice other than the anger, but you can get to a place of detachment where you're like, whoa, I don't want to interact from here. Mm-hmm. Because whenever we get identified with our story, mm-hmm. we get identified with pointing at our partner for doing all of this wrong, and we're speaking from that frustrated identification, all we're doing in that situation is manifesting more of that mm-hmm. frustrated energy. It's not until we identify with the deeper, constant, non-physical mm-hmm. self and are able to allow the disturbance to come mm-hmm. up as a couple and go, hey, look at what mm-hmm. came up here. I love you regardless of what came up. I love you unconditionally. Look at all this stuff that came up. It's like, and you can sit and love it for coming up to heal.
And the mind wants to cling, like with like the jaws of death.
Yes.
The mind wants to cling to the stupidest thing, like he didn't put the milk in the refrigerator. Like the mind wants to take the littlest, stupidest thing and not forgive the other person, like not let it go. The mind wants to argue. The mind wants to say, no, I was right. You should have put the milk in the refrigerator. And the thing is that, life is too short. Like part of my reason for practicing spirituality and relationship is like, if we're going to fight over the stupidest thing, because my mind will find the stupidest reasons to fight, will everyone's. Like, your relationship is going to suffer. All of these little disturbances that come up, if you don't heal them, they cause a gap in between you and your partner.
Like a block.
That's mm-hmm. what happens is, little things come up, you either are passive aggressive, or you don't talk them out, or you nag the person, or maybe you chastise him or her, or maybe you have a full-on fight and you kind of make up, but it's kind of like a bullshit makeup. Like those things build and build and build and build, and more of them happen over months, years. You grow apart. You grow apart from your partner.
It's like cement blocks between you. It's cement blocks.
So a lot of the time when something comes up with Tim and my ego wants to cling to it, and then there's a more loving part of me that says, my number one priority is to be close to him, is to have a relationship where I feel close, and I can't have an intimate relationship if my mind is clinging to these little stupid things. So like, am I gonna let a carton of milk come between my partner and me, even though in the moment it feels like I want to? Like in the moment I'm like, but you don't understand. Like, so it's all about prioritizing the relationship. Like if I love someone, I want to prioritize the relationship with them, not my mind saying all of these crazy things.
Right. And those blocks, like it's so easy, and it's so easy to collect blocks mm-hmm. in relationships. I mean, unless you actually have a real practice of looking at what's coming up in you as a human being, mm-hmm. you're going to be carrying blocks.
Yes.
And you're going to be carrying all those blocks into your relationship. Yes. And you'll notice with a partner that, like something I noticed with us is like, if we have anything, maybe something bothered you mm-hmm. or bothered me, and then we weren't busy and we didn't have time mm-hmm. to really look at it, and then the next day something happens, it's like there's this, it does feel like there's an accumulation mm-hmm. of separation or some debris. Energetic, some psychic debris, some barrier between us where, you just feel a little less close physically.
Yeah.
You feel like your conversations aren't connecting. Yeah. And it's just this feeling of blockage, and we're getting really good at noticing when there feels like there's any disturbance in the force mm-hmm. between us. When it's like, hey, something like I'm not feeling quite close. Mm-hmm. Can we look at this? Like, what's mm-hmm. going on? Why are we not connecting? Mm-hmm. Like, are you still upset about this, or what are you looking mm-hmm. at, or maybe I'm feeling a little something, and really by taking and actually taking time to mm-hmm. do inventory on what's coming up in your relationship on some sort of regular basis, on whatever that is for you, taking actual time. It's hard to sit and talk about your relationship when everything's good. You're like, I don't want to talk, everything's fine, don't need to talk about things now. But it's still important to just have the practice, and that's something we're working on, is like getting a more of a consistent rhythm of when we look at things, and just make it a part. It's like you do inventory work. I do my own inventory work in my practice. She does her own inventory work in her practice. So it's a matter of doing inventory work as a couple.
Right.
And what I mean by inventory work is you just, we ask, like, how are you feeling? Is there anything that's come up with a relationship? Anything that you feel like might be on your mind or on your heart that's bothering you? And looking at it, and
working through it. Yeah, because we have friends who their relationship have started out strong, and then we've seen how if they don't talk,
like
blocks build and build and build and build, and sure enough, a year later, it's like they're on the verge of breaking up because they don't communicate.
Right.
So it's like, it's saying what you feel like you can't say. Right. So yeah. Well,
this is good. We need going. We're going out and having some adventures today, so I think it's time for us to stop this. But one thing I want to say is we are going to be doing a video coming up soon, which we're going to call Your Relationship Disaster Plan. And the idea of this is to talk about having an actual plan when the shit hits the fan, and you've got some stuff coming up. What do you do? And we're going to do a video about that so that we can share what we do and what our take is on that, because we think that that's really important. Because when stuff really hits hard, when a big emotional reaction happens between one or both of you, there's very little logical thinking left in the brain. So having a plan like that you've agreed to as a couple, when the shit hits the fan, and then you go look at the wall and you're like, okay, step one, what do we do? So we're putting together a plan for that. Yeah, this is fun. I'll have more talks with Jesse. Yeah, thank you so much. Oh, thanks so much.
Awesome
cheers.
Too.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you. And if you have any ideas of videos that you'd like, I've got 11 days left on this 30 Days of Awakening. So if you want to leave a comment of anything you'd like, or shoot me a direct message, feel free. Jessie also, she's not only a writer, she also does coaching. So if you are feeling like you have any blocks or things that you'd like to work through, she's also a specialist in working through, relationship stuff and things like that. So feel free to reach out to her. You can sign up for a coaching for her on her website. She's got a whole area there.
Yep,
she's great. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, and if you like what we're talking about, subscribe, click the little notification to stay up to date on the next video. And thanks for stopping by, everybody that came by today on Instagram. Sending you all so much love. Enjoy this beautiful day, okay? Cheers.
Bye.